Okay, George, where were you on December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor?
Well, we were at home in 1339 Burton Street in Warren, Ohio, and we heard that December 7th we were concerned about my older brother that had joined the Navy. He was at Pearl Harbor, and we didn't know where he's at this particular time. And later on, we found out that he was in Alaska, that he was not in Pearl Harbor. But we were grateful for that, and we were concerned about that.
Did you listen to President Roosevelt's speech asking Congress for the declaration of war on December 8th?
Yes, I did. I think everybody did.
What were your feelings toward Germany at this time?
Well, it was hard to tell because I had no feelings at that time. I was too young, but all the movies started coming out about Japan and Germany and getting everybody worked up to hate them two countries. But,
what was your initial response to the news of Pearl Harbor? How did the next several days increase or decrease those feelings?
Well, we were still concerned about my brother being in the Navy at that time. At that time, we didn't know where he was at.
How old was he?
How old was he?
Mm-hmm.
Early 20s. He was older. He was the oldest boy in the family.
What were you doing during the war years?
Well, I was too young to join the service, but I was thinking about it as soon as I get of age. And as soon as I became 16, I tried to get in the service. I changed my birth certificate and all that to get in the Navy, but they found that I wasn't old enough. So I got a job at the government had a program in Warren, and they were storing rubber and tires. And I got a job there for minimum wage of probably 25 cents an hour, and I was only 15 or 16 at that time. And I tried, like I said, I tried to join the Navy. I was too young. And then I become 17, and then I was still waiting to get in the Navy. So in the meantime, I got a job at Packard Electric in Warren, General Motors. And I only worked there a short time, and then I finally got into the Navy.
Where did you serve as a soldier during the war?
I was in the Navy, and after my boot camp at Great Lake, we went to Little Creek, Virginia for amphibious training. And after that training, we went to Boston, Massachusetts, gunnery school. And then after gunnery school, we shipped out to Scotland on the Queen Mary. Then we got to Scotland. I think there was 1,100 of us. We formed a group called Gunfire Support Group. We were in Scotland. We was in a small town, and I can't recall where. I wish I could. That we were waiting for these boats to come in from wherever. I don't know where they come in from. And we stayed in Scotland for a while. And the people of Scotland treated us great, because I think that this little place we had stayed, that they hadn't seen American soldiers or sailors at all. We waited for these boats to come in, and they finally come in Glasgow, Scotland. And there were three different classification of boats, and one was, they had rocket launchers all over the deck. The next boat had mounted at 40 millimeters and 20 millimeters. And the next boat was at 2 5-inches and some 20s. That's the boat I got on. I was a loader on the 5-inch and a gunner on the 20-inch. Now, when these boats came in, they looked like they were from World War I. But we broke up in 50-man crews, and we had shakedown crews on these boats, and they were terrible. They the guns would break down, the 5 inches would break down, the engines would break down. But we got it all together. We overhauled the engines, we overhauled all the guns, and we got this boat in pretty good shape. We beached it and give it a paint job. We got rid of all the hammocks, got some bunks, and we got this boat in pretty good shape. And a great crew we had. We first got aboard this boat. Everybody was a stranger, but we just got friendly and so forth. I had one incident that I never forget. That when I first got aboard, I was talking with a young kid a Jewish kid from New York, and our gun captain came back and he said, I'm in charge of this 5-inch boat. I want you to know right now that I hate Dagos, I hate Jews, and I hate niggers, that's something that I never use. So we're just kids, and we didn't know what to expect. And this fellow was in the Navy for quite a while. He was much older than us, and he had a rating, so the Jewish kids thought that we should tell the captain. I said, no, let's let it go, and maybe the Germans will get lucky. But other than that incident, we had a great crew, and in fact, I would like to show a picture of it. This is our crew. Gunboat 687. This is half of all the gun crew. Number 1 gun, number 2 gun. And this is the crew that I was on. Our gun crew. We knew that something big was going to happen, so we had killed some time. So they had us patrolling the channel, just in case some E-boats would come in from France and run across to England and cause some damage and go back. They thought we could intercept it. Here we are at a tug boat that goes about 10 knots, and we're going to intercept the German E-boats. That was a big joke. But anyway, they had us doing that, and we were patrolling the channel one night, and we got the signal there's some E-boats in the territory so we manned our guns and so forth and ready for some action. But we know we couldn't compete with E-boats. Anyway, we're patrolling the channel that night, and an awful lot of firing on the beach in England, and we couldn't imagine what was going on over there. So we didn't get involved because we didn't see anything, but all the fire on the beach is all we seen. So we continued on, and the next day we pulled into a small town in England. And just as we pulled and docked up, and we got a notice that the German planes were coming over. So we manned our guns again, and these planes come over so low that I could see the pilot at the treetops. And I had my 20 millimeter right on him, and the captain hollered off, "Hold your fire," and we couldn't understand this. So nobody fired a shot. They went in and bombed this town, destroyed this town. And then when they came back out, these planes come back out, I unstrapped myself from the 20 millimeter and said, what the heck, if I can't shoot, I might as well not worry about it. But they laid some bombs right side of us and almost blew me out of the gun tub. And I said, that's all the thanks I get for letting this guy go by. But I couldn't imagine how they bombed this town coming in so low. But they did. So a few days later we get some news that our radio operator picks up some news on what happened a few nights back, that the Americans are on maneuver and have to be, they picked a beach in England, familiar with the beach that Normandy was going to be on. So they had some LSTs and some transports loaded with American GIs. And the Germans heard about this and went in with their E-boats and destroyed, I don't know how many LSTs and cargoes, transportation boats, how many Americans they killed. And that was kept a secret for years, one of the biggest blunders of the war, that these soldiers had very little protection. What they were supposed to be, I seen this on TV later on in years, that there were supposed to be 2 destroyers patrolling this outside the channel, and one of them broke down, so they had 1 destroyer protecting this group of American soldiers, and that was a terrible mistake for Americans. Anyway, after all that, the month of June was rolling around, and we knew it was getting close to what we had to do. So I think it was about June 1st, we went out the channel waiting for things to happen, and it got awful rough. The sea, the channel was awful rough. Weather was terrible. So they was planning on making a landing on June 5th. So we were in the channel, ready to go across, and they canceled because the weather was too bad. It was terrible rough. Everybody was seasick. And I remember that my job was to check the 5-inch shells in a little magazine we had there. So I got in this magazine and I set timers on each 5-inch shell. I remember handling 5 each shell, and I was hoping one of them would go off because I was so seasick that I didn't care. Anyway, we bounced around all night long, waiting to go in the next morning. So June 6th, we head to France. In the morning, you could see nothing but ships and boats and everything imaginable. So our objective was to, we had pictures of what we were supposed to do, take out this church steeple, where the Germans had something set up there, and then lay on the beach and let nothing pass on this one particular road. So we went in, and I have no idea if we took this steeple out or whatever we did, because there was so much firing going on, so much action going on. And I remember the first body I seen was a couple of boots sticking out of the water. And then there's so much going on there that it was hard to describe. But we weren't on the beach too long when the boat, there was like a speedboat coming right alongside of us and told us the army was in trouble and if we can go help. So he told us where they were at, and it was a little cove. And some of the people said it was Bahar, France, but I can't recall what it was. So we pulled off the beach and we headed in this little cove, and we broke out the 30-30 rifles and we loaded up. We know we were going to end the battle. So when we started in, there was a destroyer sitting out on the bay there trying to go in, but the water was too shallow, and he was battling the Germans on these cliffs at point blank. When we passed the destroyer, he took a direct hit in the bow of the front gun, front tour gun. But we went on in, and we caught these Germans on the cliff, and we battled the Germans on the cliff, and we took care of the poor soldiers on the cliff, with probably a bunch of kids as well as we were. And then there was a few E-boats, German E-boats down there, and we damaged them or sunk some of those. My 5-inch broke down, so I jumped on the 20. I ran out of ammo on the 20. I jumped on I picked up my 30-30 rifle, and we stayed there for quite a while battling the Germans on the cliff. Now all this time we was concerned about what happened back in England with our captain. Thought if he'd chicken out if we get into battle. And who was alongside of me was Commander Cook, right alongside of me, so we knew that he would stay when the battle was, had to be done. And we pulled out of there. The destroyer was still at the bay there, banging away. She got turned around. Her bow was still smoldering from being hit. She was banging away with her aft guns. It was amazing to watch that after being hit. So we went out the channel, got our ship back in order again, and went back into the beach again. By that time, things quieted down a little bit then, but there was a Piper Cub that was flying over the beach, trying to pick up some German placements if we wanted to fire on them, But it got awful quiet in the afternoon.
What beach were you at?
Normandy. We went into Normandy. And like I say, in the afternoon it got awful quiet. So at that time they were taking the wounded and cleaning the beach up and taking some to dead. And I was on watch with my gunner, and the rest of the guys were crapped out all over the place because everybody hadn't got any rest for 3 or 4 days. Then we spotted 2 planes coming down the beach, and my gunner's mate said, he put the glasses on and said, they're German planes. And I said, well, why isn't anybody firing on them? Nobody fired on them. He said, well, the Germans. He said, when they get in range, I'll give you the okay to fire on them. So I was hesitant because I thought sure they were Americans or English planes. I fired, but I didn't want to hit anything. Then when I seen that they didn't have white markers underneath the wings, I knew they were Germans. So then I concentrated on trying to take one of them down, but I didn't have any luck. He went over the channel, and they said he went down another channel. And the other plane continued down the coast. And that was the end of that. So late afternoon, we get the word that if we wanted the captain told us that he had good news for us. That there was a French cruiser on the bay there that we can all tie up to, all the small boats, and run out there and tie up to them. We thought that was pretty good news. What a mistake that was. Anyway, we figured we'd tie up to that cruiser. All the firing power that cruiser had, that we'd be well protected. So we tied up to the cruiser that night. And everybody got to get some rest. So I stayed in my gun tub. I was comfortable there. I had a bunch of life jackets and foul weather gear, so I could stay there comfortable. Late at night, 2 German planes come over, and they didn't do anything, just flying over. And all the ships opened up fire on them. It was like 4th of July 100 times. But then nothing happened then. And everything cooled down again, and everybody fell back to sleep. A little time later, all hell broke loose. German E-boats pulled alongside of us, And everybody was getting some rest, sleeping, and that was it. We can care less because we were all tired. Opened fired on a cruiser. And I mean, like, all hell broke loose. We didn't know what was going on. So all we had to do is, the captain said, start the engine, let's get out of here. All them shells are flying over our head. You could the smoke and all the shell fragments. And I said, we've got to, well, the captain said, let's get out of here fast, because really he didn't know what was going on either. When that French people wake up on that cruiser, we're going to be caught in crossfire. But we started the engine and cut the lines. We couldn't, the only way we could get the lines up was with a hatchet, so we got out of there fast. And all the other boats got out of there. And so we went back in the channel and let them fight it out in there. So next morning we come back in to look what happened to the cruiser. Well, they know they couldn't sink the cruiser unless they put a torpedo into her. They were after the conning tower, where all the fire and power comes from. The conning tower, command pull up there, was all level. They just took that right off. So we looked, that cruiser was put out of commission and not even being sunk. So we lay around there back in the beach. We went again. That's, I think, the fourth time. And there was nothing else for us to do. We did our part. And this little boat that runs around was running around the beach. I suppose that they were telling what was happening on the beach, and then radio back to a flagship. The progress was made on the beach. Came back and told us that we did a great job helping the Army underneath them cliffs. And our boat was supposed to cited for a citation of some sort, so which I never heard about it. Never did. And then we laid around there, and so they said we might as well go back to Scotland. So we went back to Glasgow, Scotland. Now, we're all concerned about our other shipmates, who got back, who didn't, you know, because there was a lot of boats involved, out of 1,100 men crew.
Were you ever wounded?
No, I was never wounded, but I seen some of my buddies get killed. On our boat alone, it was amazing. 1 killed, 1 wounded. And all the firing we were involved, it's hard to believe. But going in, when we were going into the beach, right alongside of us, these boats got hit, and some of my buddies were on it, and so forth. And to see these people in the water, it was tough to take. But you know, it was tough to take, but it didn't bother us that much. We knew that this is where we're supposed to be. But like I say, when we cleared them Germans off them cliffs up there, you can imagine there were a bunch of kids up there also trying to kill us. We're trying to kill them, and that doesn't make no sense. But anyway, that's the way war is. We got back to Glasgow, Scotland, and the boats, what was left up and down the beach, and us, we knew we had buddies all over the place, so we all see if we can, who got back, who didn't get back. So I never could find out some of my friends that what happened to them. But anyway, we lay there for a couple of weeks in Scotland, and they didn't know what to do with us. There were rumors that we were going to go back over to southern France, but with our boat, we had no condition of going back over there. Then there's rumors for us all going home. In the meantime, we waited there a couple of weeks, and the captain calls me in, and he says he's going to give me a 10-day pass, which I have right here. 10-day pass in Scotland. I don't want to show the end of it because the Shore Patrol brought me back to the ship. Anyway, that was great because I met a family in Glasgow that I wanted to go look up again, and So I had a 10-day leave, and came back to the ship. Everybody was gone. And I had orders to all my shipmates, everybody was gone from the ship, to pack up and jump on this freighter, tied up there, and you're going back to the States. So, hey, I didn't hesitate. I mean, incidentally, when I was in Scotland, I heard that Glenn Miller was playing somewhere around there, either Scotland or London or someplace. And I certainly wanted to go see him, but that didn't work out. And later on I hear he got killed, but that's something else. Anyway, let's see, I get back to New York. Here I am. I went over to Scotland on Queen Mary, which was great. Took 1 week, 7 days to get home. Get to Scotland on the Queen Mary. Now they put me on a freighter. Well, I think there was a prisoner of war going back to the state also. And I thought, I like that. I go on a Queen Mary to Scotland. Here I am, a hero. I'm going home on a freighter. Just putting some words there. And anyway, I don't know if we got an escort there or not, but going over on the Queen Mary, we had no escort because it took 7 days, and it'd be hard for a submarine to get her as fast as she was, unless they boxed her in some way. But when I got on, I was all by myself because I didn't know a soul. All the other shipmates, all my buddies were gone already. So I got in New York. I got a 30-day furlough. I bummed my way home. And when I got home, it wasn't too long that I had orders to go to San Diego. Report to San Diego Naval Base. So how do I get to San Diego? And then I got orders to go to Cleveland. There's a troop ship leaving from Cleveland, be on it. So I'm still by myself. I don't know a soul. Here I'm a young kid, don't know a soul. So I got on this troop train. It was Navy and also Army. And I went to San Diego. I went to San Francisco, I believe, and they had buses for us. Army would go one way and the Navy would go the other way. So they took us to, I went to San Diego Naval Base. And I was getting happy now. I said, boy, I'm going to see my shipmates, I don't know a soul. I get to San Diego, and I'm aboard, put me aboard LST 446. There she is, right there. Now, I don't know a soul on this boat, this ship here. Now that's a ship because I was on a bigger craft. But there was only a handful of us on this ship from Normandy. But I knew all the people from the Navy. Most of the Navy personnel in Normandy were shipped to the Pacific because they didn't need them up in Normandy anymore in France. And I knew my shipmates were there in San Diego, so I hunted high and low because I know they were there someplace. And the Navy base is so huge that I never did find them. I never got any touch with them whatsoever after that, and I was very disappointed. We got, like I said, we went to San Diego and I got aboard this LST. We were just a handful of us from Normandy, and I knew some of the boys, but I didn't know why. I couldn't find the shipmates that I was on at Normandy at gunboat 687. I hunted all over for them, but I couldn't find them. I was very disappointed. Anyway, we were just a small group from Normandy, but I knew everybody that it was in Normandy was at that base someplace, getting prepared to go to Pacific. So the old hands on this boat, we were replacements, treated us like dirt. We got every dirty job about that aboard that boat, that ship, LST. So we just about had it with the regular crew, and we were a tough bunch of kids. So we found out where they had Liberty one night, and we figured we would have a long talk with them. So we met them at this one particular bar, and we straightened some things out, and I was restricted to the ship for, I had no more liberties, because what happened to the bar, we just did some talking. But it was amazing when you talk to people how you can make friends. So we were friends with those guys and the old hands, and we got along pretty good after that. Anyway, we went to Pacific, and we went to Pearl Harbor, and then we went to the Philippines, Subic Bay, which was our main port down there. Loaded up the Marines, and we were heading for someplace. And I think it was, I can't recall what day it was. Let's see, Easter. I know we were going someplace Easter. I think it was April Fool's Day. I think it was April Fool. We were going to Iwo Jima. And we had a bunch of young Marines aboard, and we went to Iwo Jima, and we're going to land the Marines, and we stayed off the coast and watched bombs Mount Suribachi. The Navy hit them with everything possible. Fighter bombers and everything possible hit this Mount Suribachi. And it was amazing, these Marines we had aboard had a feeling that wasn't enough. We had some couple of crates of Thompson machine guns, and they were doing a lot of switching around. And some of the Marines took some of our Thompsons, and we took them and their carbines and so forth. Anyway, we went into Iwo Jima, landed the Marines, pulled back out, went back out to sea, waiting for something else to happen. Okay? Went back to Iwo Jima. It was all secured. The land, the base, the island was secured at that time. I think it was about a month later. Pick up Marines again, whatever outfit we picked up. So we wanted to look at Mount Suribachi. So we got a Jeep. A bunch of us got on the Jeep and bounced around, get on top of Mount Suribachi, which I will show you right now. This is on top of Mount Suribachi.
Now, what is Mount Suribachi?
Where the Marines raised the flag on top of the Mount Suribachi, and we had no idea what had happened prior to that. We just wanted to go up and look at the ocean, and we did. And then we got up on top of this mountain, and we seen this monument with American flags, so we took pictures of it. We had no idea what happened a couple of weeks prior to that. So, and from on top of the mountain, you could look over the Pacific, which was beautiful. It wasn't beautiful for the Marines at that particular time. So we got ready for another invasion. Incidentally, this is a picture of the graves at Iwo Jima. This is also a picture of Ernie Powell's grave. Now, whether this was on Iwo Jima or one of the islands right next to it, Ernie Powell was a great news reporter during the war. So we loaded up, and the Marines were heading for Okinawa. Now, I think this was Good Friday or some of that effect. Oh, in the meantime, before that, we got news that I think President Roosevelt died.
Can we stop? How did you find out?
Well, they announced it over the speaker that had died, and
You sure don't want me to stop?
that was tough. Because I thought that I'd never get home then. But we headed to Okinawa, and that's when we got word that kamikaze planes were in the area. We had no idea what the hell a kamikaze was. We soon found out in a hurry. Our duty was we were the fake landing. The real landing was going on the opposite side of the island, and we were supposed to draw all the Japs on our sides and take all the fire, and which we did. They were hitting a lot of ships, suicide planes. They would come in and hit all the ships that they could. And our lead ship, I was on 446, they hit 449. And I remember seeing all these kids in the water, and I said, where the hell have I seen this before? So we threw overboard all the life jackets we could and all the rafts we could. And we, after Okinawa, which was very rough on the Navy took a lot of casualties at Okinawa. Then we bounced around there, picked up survivors or whatever we did. Went out to sea, and then we heard the war was over.
What did you think?
Very happy. We were very happy what we went through. Figured, man, we made it. Because we knew our next stop was Japan. And our next job was Japan, because we went to Japan, and I don't know why we went there, but being we went there, we might as well have liberty, in which we did. And when I went ashore, we had orders to stay in bunches, and somebody had a sidearm, but them people were no problem. They were happy that the war was over and happy to see us. I went to shore, and I had this painting by one of the Japanese artists, and I put Tokyo here, but I don't think it was Tokyo. Anyway, that's his name, and on the back, he spoke good English. This is his printing.
What does it say?
November 1st, 1945, painted in whatever that is, A-T-A-N-N, I think that's what it says on the back. And so I still have this. There I am.
It's nice.
So we came home and check our points for to be discharged. Let me elaborate a little bit when going back. I dropped out of school because I was so far back in school that every time that I would get started in school, we would move. And I don't know how many times we moved. So as far as education goes, it was very tough.
Why did you move?
We probably didn't pay the rent.
Oh.
Because we were very poor and had a big family, and my dad never had a good job. And my dad never drank. We were an Italian family. He never made wine. We never had Italian neighbors. The neighbors we had were all black and white kids that I hung around with, went to school with, went swimming, and went to the movies with. All black kids and white kids. That's the neighborhood we were in. That's why I was very offended when I went aboard ship and this probably KKK said that he didn't like Italians and Jews and blacks. That I told this Jewish kid that my black friend drowned while we were swimming. Us kids were swimming and we tried to save him. And he was a good friend of mine. We used to go to movies together as kids. And I'll never forget that. But anyway, we goes back a long way, and we were a poor neighborhood. It's all black and white, but we all helped each other as neighbors. Anyway, things got a little better for my mother, and she put money away, and before I went in the service, we was able to buy a home. It was like heaven. And that's when I got a job at General Motors, Packard Electric. And I'll never forget, because wherever I went, I would get a cablegram from Packard Electric about the home front, and everybody would read it. I'd get it once a month, and they would tease me about it. You got the cablegram, and at least I had something. If I didn't have a letter, I had the cablegram coming. So it followed me all over the world. But here I am, thinking that here I am in Japan, and just a few months back, I was in Normandy, in France. Many people can say that, but that's what I wanted in life when I was a kid, and that's what I got.
How long were you in the service?
Almost 3 years. So I come out, I hit the States, I was 19 years old. Discharged, came home, and in 1946, it was crazy. I mean, people coming home, and we formed a VFW in Warren, 07201, veterans, and we had a great club, and it was amazing. I was young. I was probably the youngest one of the members. I was quite young when I went in. And how you grow up in a hurry when you're in the service, but it was very tough to adjust. Coming home and all this excitement and jobs galore. You could quit one job and finding one the same day. Anyway, I went back to my old job at Packard Electric in Warren, and I wasn't happy with that. I quit. Imagine I quit General Motors, but I did quit. And I did some other things, and I bought a tavern with practically no money at all. Bounced around, did some other things. Went to trade school in Chicago, graduated from that. Come home, was going to work out of my garage. That didn't work out. So ended up back at Packard Electric again. That's the third time. So they laid me off because they were building a new plant. So a short time, and being I was laid off, I found a job at a beer company, was just forming in Youngstown. And they needed truck drivers. And I knew one of the owners, and he hired me as a truck driver. I never drove a truck in my life. I said, great, so I'll try driving a truck. Now I'm going to handle beer kegs that weigh 180 pounds. I only weigh 150. Maybe get off 300 or 400 cases of beer a day. But I loved it, and we worked 10, 12 hours a day getting this company started. So I knew I wasn't going to be on a truck too long. So the beer was Black Label beer, which was very hot at that particular time. And the brewery had a schooling for salesmen and management. So I got involved in that. I got a diploma for being management and a salesman and so forth. So I was off the truck. I was sales manager, and I was supervisor first. And we were growing so fast. We started with 6 trucks, and every year we put on 2 more, 3 trucks. So we ended up with 13 trucks. So we hired people, and I became sales manager. And it was a good job. I mean, it was tough, but I loved it. In the meantime, Packard called me back. They were rehiring the ones they laid off. And this is crazy. I called Mr. Webster, and I think he was the personnel manager. And I told him, could you give me 2 more weeks before I decide? And he gave me 2 more weeks extension. And now I'm laid off. That's crazy. And here it is, one of the best jobs in the world at Packard, good paying job, and I never went back. But I was happy what I did, so I retired as sales manager at C&K Beverage But 25 years in, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being a salesman, and that's what I wanted to do. So that was my life. I was married, and we lost a little girl who passed away at birth. And my wife, at that time, she had a stroke. About the same time I retired, but I had another job in mind. But being she had a stroke, I just did not go back. Didn't go back to work at all. And as at the moment I speak, she had a stroke 2.5 years ago, and she's in a nursing home right now. So that was my life, and being in service. I don't want to hear young fellas complain about their life growing up, because when we were kids, we had it very tough, because it was a tough neighborhood, and everybody was poor. And little jobs we could pick up, we did. I went to the golf course and caddied. If I didn't caddy, I'd go swimming. And we worked for whatever job we could find. But that's my story on that. When I went in the Navy, I went as a seaman, and I come out as a seaman. I wasn't looking for no rate. I was just a young kid following orders. One thing about the Navy, when you go on liberty, you can raise hell and do what you want. When you get aboard ship, you gotta go Navy regulations, or you're going to be in trouble. And when you're a bunch of kids, you get liberty, you get in trouble. But when you go aboard ship, you behave yourself, you follow orders. And that's exactly what I did. When I was aboard ship, whatever they told me to do, I did. And I had some rough duties. Being a seaman, you get every dirty job there was. But not so much at Normandy. With the small boat we were on, we were like a family. And I can remember nobody goofing off. And I don't remember anybody giving strict orders. We just had orders, and we did them. It was a small boat, and everybody was like a family. And we took care of each other, other than that one incident that I just overlooked. And we never had any contact with this gentleman aboard that boat ever since that deal we had aboard ship. I loved to box. I won Golden Gloves when I was just a kid in Warren. Went to Youngstown at the semifinals, and I was going to finals in Cleveland, and they called me to have another fight, and I didn't know this. They're going to wrap it all up in one night. And after the first fight, I knew that I thought I'd get a chance for the national championship. And I went and celebrated and had a few hot dogs and pop and so forth. Then they called us all back that we had to fight the last fight in Youngstown. At that time, I knew that I could go all the way. Well, I had a feeling I could. And I didn't know I was going to be called back for the second fight. And I was very disappointed. I got beat because I wasn't, I wasn't thinking about fighting on all them hot dogs and pop I had. And anyway, I was disappointed in that, and that's when I wanted to get in the Navy very bad. In the Navy, I boxed. And when I got aboard the LST, there was a black kid, the only black kid we had aboard ship. His name was Gene Smith. Now, there's a lot of Gene Smiths. And he said that he was going to turn pro when he got out of the service. So him and I worked out pretty good together. We'd work out anytime we could get aboard ship that the weather was nice and calm. We'd break out the gloves, and anybody wanted to box, we boxed. But he was good, and I was pretty good too. But in fact, I was thinking about the same thing he was. When I get home, I'll take up boxing again. So I never smoked in the service. I drank beer, but I never smoked. And to this day, I don't smoke. Anyway, a while back, years after, I seen Gene Smith won the lightweight championship. And I often wonder if it was the same kid or not. And, like I say, there was a lot of Gene Smith, but this kid was good. When I came home, I wanted to get involved again, and I went and seen Jack Thompson, was a trainer in Warren, And he said, okay, you want to start boxing, then fine. We'll get you a few fights under your belt, and maybe you can turn pro. But things were so fast in those days that I just couldn't put my mind to boxing again, much as I wanted to. So that's where I started way back to do some amateur fighting, you know, and I loved it. And never took it up again. One thing I always try to do is, later on in the years, I wanted to know where my medals were. That I had 3 bronze stars, I knew that, but I never got any medals. Normandy, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. I was promised, our boat was promised in Normandy, we were promised a citation of some sort, never received anything. I wrote to the State Department, War Department, Navy Historic Department. Only thing I ever got back was a copy of my discharge. I got 3 discharge copies. And so the last letter I wrote, that they said contact the English Navy War Department. Well, I never did that. I asked them how many boats go back to Scotland from with this group, Gunfire Support Group. They never heard of it, and I was very disappointed. Here's the outfit that had a lot of casualties and did one hell of a job, and nobody's ever heard of this outfit. Gunfire Support Group. Thank you.